Hello and welcome to the run-up. I am Maureen Menong-Wezigwe. Well, news hitting us this morning in Lagos actually broke last night involving, let's start with the sad news that hit us this morning in Lagos, Nigeria, involving loaded LASG staff bus in a collision with a train at the PWD bypass Ikeja. Scores are reported dead and injured as rescue workers are on the scene to help the injured. It is reported that the driver of the LASG bus is on the run. He was alleged to have been flagged to stop by officers while entering the train tracks, but he disobeyed. Hello. At this point, I should introduce you to my guest, who is Uthman Issa Tochukwu. Uthman, good morning to you. Do I still have Uthman with me? Okay, well, Uthman is not here, so I'll just continue with this until he joins us. However, due to the inability to commence the reconfiguration of the bimodal voters accreditation system, the BVAS machines, on time, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has postponed the governorship and state assembly elections fixed for March 11th to March 18th. The Court of Appeal yesterday gave the Commission the nod to reconfigure the BVAS used for the February 25th presidential and National Assembly polls in readiness for the state elections. Elections earlier scheduled for Saturday 11 March will now hold on Saturday 18th March. The Commission said in a statement by spokesperson Festus Okoye last night. The first round of the elections, the presidential and National Assembly elections, held as scheduled on 25th of February. The statement said that the postponement was to make for adequate timing to reconfigure the bimodal voter accreditation system, the BVAS, ahead of the governorship and state assembly polls. Well, today we will be discussing this. It is part of what we'll be discussing, and hopefully my guest has joined us, Uthman Issa Tochukwu. He's supposed to join us virtually. All right, we'll go on a break right now and be back shortly. Stay with us.
This is it for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Booking November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on PlusTvAfrica.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
So what are the top decisions that the United States considers necessary that Nigeria must take? I like to think of my interactions as conversations, not interviews. And that's why I say asking questions is both an art and a science. Everyone says in Islam you are allowed to have 4 wives. Is it mandatory? The right question enables answers that educate, inform, clarify, and help you, the viewer, to better understand the issue before making up your mind.
Our goal is to reduce from 10 to 2 days the time it takes to register businesses in Nigeria.
Join me every week on this station, PlusTvAfrica, and gain exclusive access to my conversations. I'm Angela Ajetumobi.
When you hear of drug abuse, what comes to your mind? When we say drug abuse, it seems like something that is so distant, but it's happening every day in our homes.
1 in every 4 persons has mental illness.
Regardless of your notion of what drug abuse is, you are sure to get the right meaning here. Welcome to Regardless, an anti-drug abuse television show put together by Christ Against Drug Abuse Ministry.
Regardless, the anti-drug abuse show airing on Plus TV Africa every Tuesday at 5:30 p.m.
Effiong Effa Inyong, who made waves as a sports journalist on radio, has thrown his hat into the ring to contest the governorship seat in Cross River State.
What is the role of the electorate in all of this?
I ask the electorate of Cross River State, look at this situation. Let us change it. As part of the things we will do to create employment in Cross River State is to say that we'll create more additional we'll create council development areas. That is, I will do what people don't think that money can do. I'll be saying it the way it is, as of right, as someone that is also on the field, that is also contending and contesting for office to make a difference.
Timeless Conversations, airing every Saturday at 8:30 p.m.
Climate change has become one of the hottest subjects of global discourse, with over 100 heads of states and governments gathering in Egypt in November of 2022 for COP27 to discuss an urgent way forward. To discuss climate change and the benefits of gardening, nature in general, I have Mr. Olushola Adekoya. He is the MD of Shodex Beautification Landmark, a naturalist. He is an environmentalist and a humanitarian.
Gardening is something that once you understand it and you position yourself and you know your audience, definitely you cannot lack. You make a living and you live well.
The quality of thinking and the depth of thought of Nigerians is super low resolution. You know lantern, the days of lantern, like it's so low, it's lowest resolution, and you see that in the way like we're just tweeting and people are not independent thinkers.
We can't expect to always apply violence because one of the issues pointed out during the last election was violence.
We saw the videos, we saw pictures, we saw people came out, the youth came out. We could see the emotion and then the actions towards this election.
Their own thinking pattern is we vote and our candidate must win by hook or by crook, therefore we will intimidate other people.
How can we have peace without justice?
Plus Politics. It's not just another political conversation, it's about keeping you in the know. The relevant interviews, asking the tough questions to those that matter. Get the answers you need. Does it mean that the people who were injured, people who were shot at, those who were involved in that stampede are not going to get justice?
It is unfortunate, it is sad that we have a government of deaf and dumb.
Analysis from top experts.
The last election was not really an election.
We feel that Obasanjo has a very special place in his heart for hating Ijaw people.
I think it really boils down to two things. One, trust and accountability.
Plus Politics, every weeknight at 7 p.m. on Plus TV Africa.
Welcome back to the run-up. Well, the Presidential Election Tribunal has restrained the Commission, that's the INEC, from tampering with all sensitive materials, including the beavers used in the conduct of the presidential election. Following the request by the candidates of the PDP and the Labour Party, Atiku Abubakar and Peter Obi respectively, who rejected the outcome of the presidential election. The Court of Appeal in Abuja on Wednesday granted INEC permission to reconfigure the bimodal voter accreditation system machines used for the 25th February presidential and National Assembly elections across the country. The panel, however, ordered the Independent National Electoral Commission to upload the data on the BVAS machines to the back-end server and make certified true copies of the data to the respondents. The opposition candidates, who came second and third respectively, rejected the emergence of the APC candidate Bola Tinubu as winner of the election and called for the conduct of another round of elections or be declared the winner. Well, joining us to discuss this is Uthman Issa Tochukwu. He's a legal practitioner. Thank you, Uthman, for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me, Maureen.
All right, so Uthman, first of all, how surprised were you when you heard about the postponement of the governorship election?
Thank you very much for having me. I don't think I was actually surprised that the Saturday election was going to be postponed, even though it is not proper to preempt the outcome of the proceedings of court in this circumstance. This is because under Section 24 of the Electoral Act, specifically in Section 24 sub 2 of the Electoral Act, it has provided that INEC have the right under some certain emergencies or exigencies, as the case may be, to postpone any election, as the case may be in the country, and then fix another date to conduct such election. So in that vein, I wasn't actually surprised that the postponement was going to come, looking at the facts of what was facing INEC at the time. You could recall that they were in court for them to be granted leave to reconfigure the BVAS ahead of the election. And that order quite actually came late. So it is enough for them to rely in the circumstance to say that they want to postpone the election. So long as the law has given them that latitude to so do, I wasn't actually surprised that it was going to come.
Yeah, you've alluded to the fact that that request from INEC came late. Do you read anything to that coming late? That request from INEC coming at the time it did, just few days to the governorship election. How suspicious does that appear to you?
I don't think it actually appears suspicious in any way. Let us not teach to public sentiment and public opinion when we raise some of these issues. These are issues of fact and data, and you know that in data management, there's what is called backup, right, and restore. So under backup and restore in data management, it is understandable that even if INEC had gone to reconfigure the BVAS, it has no effect whatsoever to the previous election that had been had that is about to be contested in court. It's not going to tamper with any evidence as far as that particular issue that has to deal with backup and restore is concerned. And the court had also instructed that they must have to do that backup in order to avail some of those parties who are agreed with the outcome of the initial election to be able to have access to some of the document that will aid their plea in court. So with that being in mind, I do not think there's any suspicion whatsoever. It's just the public outcry, right, for INEC, making a move to reconfigure the BVAS. They thought that it's going to affect the evidence that was used to conduct the presidential election. But if you look at it from the professional perspective, i.e., I'm talking about now keeping data and all of that, it doesn't have any effect whatsoever. It doesn't have any effect.
All right. When the opposition parties, the candidates, request to inspect these machines, what more do you think they're looking for besides the results that are there? Because clearly it does seem that it's not just the results that they want to see. What else do you think they could be looking for? Uthman. Well, it does appear we're having a bit of technical glitch this morning with connectivity. We may have to take a break and come back.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges dip in search of solutions. Inside the Niger Delta with Mamode Akuga, the authentic
all wards in Lagos State, from Ikorodu to Badagry, Ekpe to Alimosho, seeking to know the true state of our state and where the shoe really pinches. They visited the riverine communities and places that have never been visited before by any governorship candidate in the history of Lagos politics. Funke's Market Storm is also the first of its kind by a deputy governorship candidate. Lagos. There's so much work to do. It is time to give the man who knows Lagos and can birth a breath of fresh air the chance to lead. Vote Dr. Abdulaziz Olajide Adediran Jandor as Governor of Lagos State. PDP! Power to the people!
We do apologize for the disruptions. We are still on the run-up, and our guest is Uthman Isato Chukwu, legal practitioner, joining us to take a look at the postponement of the governorship election and all that's happening around that, and the just concluded presidential election, plus the forthcoming governorship election that couldn't hold. Uthman, sorry we couldn't continue our conversation smoothly as we had hoped to would, but let's continue from where we stopped. I was asking if it were just as simple as them having access to the results, would they have gone to court to seek for inspection, authority to inspect these machines? Or is there something more that they're looking for aside from the uploaded results?
Yes, the law provides that in order to have access to a public document kept in a public institution, right, you need a legal order from courts to be able to access such a document, especially when it has to deal with document that will support your case. And before, what emanated that particular intention to access some of those documents was as a result of the election that was conducted on Saturday, that presidential election. And then INEC is going to be joined as a party to come and explain and give their own facts as with regards to the outcome of the election. And in that vein, you don't expect that INEC will just willingly give out access to some of those documents, even though it is a public document. So the ideal thing to do was for the applicants, i.e. some of those parties who were aggrieved with the outcome of the election, to go to court to seek for an order of court to grant them that leave or permission to say, right, to allow INEC give them access to some of those documents. So it is the right thing to have done, and that's what actually happened.
Well, with all the controversies thrown up by that election and the litigations and all that, would it be correct to say that INEC probably was hasty in declaring a winner?
I don't think that is correct, because if you had gone through that electoral process, you would understand that it took about 3 to 4 days thereabout to declare this election. Election was held on Saturday, and I think it took Sunday, Monday, Tuesday before result was announced. I didn't think INEC was in a haste, but I wouldn't also say that the process was not marred with lots of irregularities, and that is what animated some of these grievances that has propelled some of these candidates to go to court to contest the outcome of the elections. INEC worked within their timeline and also within their timetable, but of course, the election is not satisfactory to the citizens of this country, and myself too. I have my own personal reservations with the process, that characterized the election. And in all of that, all we have to do is to submit all our grievances to court. Since the matter is now going to be distilled in court, we should all wait and see how the court is going to determine the issue, and then we'll all learn from the outcome.
Okay, well, the forthcoming election, that's the governorship, has just been postponed. What's the import of this postponement on the election, would you say?
Well, there is no import. It's just for the various in fact, it has given an opportunity for some of the candidates, to go home and reorganize themselves and then do 1 or 2 more campaigns before Upper Week Saturday, which is on the 18th of March, 2023. So I think it's to the advantage of some of those candidates, because some persons are not even ready. Like yesterday, I was in court for a pre-election matter. My client was supposed to be one of the contestants on Saturday. His name was omitted, and we got an order of court and served on INEC to include his name to contest the election on Saturday. When this court order had not, when this postponement date had not been issued by INEC. So you can imagine with him that we're just left with 2 days or 48 hours to conduct his campaign. He would be left with another more 7 to 8 days, to campaign before the 18th. So you can see, with the advent of this postponement, is to his advantage. So I think it's more of advantage to the contestants than it is of disadvantage to them.
All right, we've had repeated series of hiccups marring electoral processes in this country. And here we are today with all of these controversies trailing this just concluded presidential election. I wonder, why do we keep getting it wrong with our electoral processes?
I think I would agree with you in part, right, that we are getting it, we're not getting it too correct in our electoral process, but not always getting it wrong. I think that will not speak well for our country. We are a nascent democracy, and as such, we are still growing. We should not also be unmindful of the fact that Nigeria is working in progress. And
okay. He was just going to say that Nigeria is still a work in progress.
Yes.
All right, good.
And that being said, we will continue to develop our electoral process. And as you can see, the beavers were just tested for the first time in our electoral history. And we could see for sure, even though the elections to some large extent was marred with irregularities, we cannot also shy away from the development that the beavers have brought in our electoral process. There are some states that since inception of that state have been ruled by one political party, and then we could see the emergence of other political parties taking over and disrupting the status quo in some of those states. These are issues that we cannot also shy away with when we criticize the bad side of the election.
A national test run of these machines, do you think? Because when we had the Osun election, and then there were issues that were thrown up from that, some of us were a bit cautious with our excitement about the beavers, and we thought, but then some lawyers explained to us that the beavers saved the day in that election, that the beavers actually did show that it could be relied upon to help the process. However, with the just concluded election, we've discovered that it just, well, didn't go as we had hoped it would go. Are you of the opinion, as some have postulated, that there should have been a national test run of these machines before the elections?
Yeah, I share that opinion, actually, that there should have been a national test run, because at least if you are using anything for the first time, it deserves to be test run, especially when it has to serve about 200 million Nigerians. So, and this is about national election for that matter. And I think that is why INEC wants to learn from its mistake by saying they should be allowed to reconfigure this in order not to repeat what had happened during the presidential election. Although that's not an excuse for INEC, I'm not holding brief for them. But it is important for us to understand that we are using this thing for the first time in our election, and we should not shy away that we will experience some of these irregularities, but at least to a very minimal extent, but not to this porous extent that had landed us into this trouble. But another thing is that the law had also provided support for some of these things, right? Even if you get it all correct, there will still be that some persons who will show grievances with the outcome. And then that's why the court is there, for them to go and table their issue before the court and let the court determine how the process went. So at this point, I would say that, yes, it would have been subjected to national test run, but in the absence of that and the outcome had happened, then the only refuge is for the aggrieved candidates to seek redress before the court.
Yeah, well, one could easily say, look, the elections have taken place, let's just move on. But then it becomes imperative too, because if we're going to forestall a repeat of an ugly history, we must fix it. So that by next 4 years, when we go back to the polls, we will not be here again discussing some of these glitches that have continued to plague the electoral process in the country. However, another thing that could go wrong from this postponement of the governorship election is the fact that it could create more voter apathy. Do you share that thought?
It's one of those consequences, actually, that the postponement had caused, the voter apathy aspect of it. And it will be very sad, and it will not be good for our electoral system and our elections too. You see, when you talk about some people saying that if you had lose election, you should just relax and let it go, I don't think it's the ideal thing to do in a democracy. I mean, we operate a constitutional democracy. And in a constitutional democracy, it allows every individual, to express themselves in terms of their rights that have been guaranteed under the Constitution. And some of those rights can only be expressed by, approaching the courts to lay your grievances. If you are not happy with the outcome of the process, I don't think it will be fair for anybody to tell you to go home and relax. If you feel you have some overwhelming evidence that could convince the court to tilt to your argument, why not? The Constitution has given you that right to go to court and demand for your right based on the facts presented before it. So I do not subscribe to the idea of election has come and gone, those who have lost should go home and relax. If they feel they have something substantial, I mean, our laws encourages that they should go to court and then present whatever they feel they have before the court and let the court hear them.
Well, thank you so much, Uthman Issa Tochukwu, for your time and insight on this very crucial matter. Have a great day. Thank you for having me. We'll take a short break. We'll be back. Stay with us.
A new day has finally come for citizens with disabilities in Nigeria. You can now participate in the electoral processes without any worry whatsoever. The new Electoral Act of 2022 has made robust provisions to ensure persons with disabilities are not left out of the electoral process. The Disability Act and the Electoral Act has mandated INEC to provide special assistance for citizens with disabilities at the polling booth. As a citizen with a disability, you are entitled to non-discrimination, priority voting, braille ballots for the blind, magnifying glasses for albinos, election day instructions to support the deaf, among other provisions. So, when you arrive at your polling unit on election day, all you need to do is present yourself to the polling officer in charge and you will be given the required support. It is your right by law. Now, nothing can stop you from being part of the electoral process. You are a citizen, and with your voter's card, you are one of the owners of Nigeria. Go out and make your voice heard as we recruit those that will serve us on election day. This message is brought to you by the Campaign for Equal Voting Access, a program of the Center for Citizens with Disabilities, with support from MacArthur Foundation.
Welcome back. You're still watching the run-up on Plus TV Africa, and time to shift to another aspect of the election. We're talking about the 2023 Akwa Ibom State governorship election, which will of course now take place on the 18th of March, as in the case with other parts of the country. At this time, they will be going to elect the governor of Akwa Ibom State concurrent with elections to the Akwa Ibom State House of Assembly, as well as 27 other governorship elections to all other state houses of assembly. Incumbent PDP Governor Udom Gabriel Emmanuel is term limited and cannot seek re-election to a third term. Well, architect Ezekiel Anya Itok is running for the 2023 governorship election in Akwa Ibom State under the umbrella of the African Democracy Congress, that's the ADC. Anya Itok said that he is out to create independency system for the people of the state to live and have a means of livelihood without begging, in order to prove to Akwa Ibom people that they can be professionals without begging, and take the youth to the government house to be involved in leadership, because they cannot move ahead in their current situation. Well, you are welcome to the program, Architect Ezekiel Anya Itok.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be on your program.
All right. Well, your mantra has been vote competency and not party zone. Why have you chosen that mantra?
Yeah, that's because we need to understand that government is not another game like football or anything. Government is the institution that is the most important after God. Government is the institution that manages the collective destiny of the people. And as a result, if you are to have such an important institution, the leadership recruitment must understand the essence. And that makes it imperative that people must know that government is so serious, so important, that you can only but leave it in the hands of the most competent. That is why competence ranks very high in my scale of preference on leadership recruitment for the governorship of our state.
Clearly, you are a professional, being an architect, and you're not one of those that would be described as political or career politicians.
Actually, I have never accepted any paying office in my life. And that's very deliberate and very intentional. I needed people to know that you can be a professional, a career professional, and successful. And at the risk of sounding immodest, I've been extremely successful at the highest level in my chosen profession. And I would say that two things. Number one, I have never accepted any paying appointment in my life. Second, since Akwa Ibom State was created 35 years ago, nobody in the state can bring out 4 jobs that I have done in the state. So I don't depend on appointment. I don't depend on government. I work strictly as an architect, and God has helped me to rise to the point of being a fellow of the Nigerian Institute of Architects and being one that has a name in the area of real estate and architectural practice in Nigeria, to the end that a certain aspect of housing delivery, which is called social housing, is attributed to me as an individual by the grace of God, as somebody who from no mention brought social housing to become the national mantra with a full chapter in the current national housing policy. These are the things that God has helped me to put together. I've been able to, in any way you can imagine, establish myself as a success by the grace of God without appointment.
Okay, well, having worked so hard all your life, one would have expected that you just retire, enjoy your wife, enjoy your children, enjoy your wealth. But here you are, going into the race to become governor of a state. Why do you want to become the governor of Akwa Ibom State?
It's a problem that we the elite, we the enlightened, we the privileged, run into. Somewhere in a Hilton, when Madam Okonjo-Iweala was the Minister of Finance and the coordinating Minister of the Economy, CME, we had a meeting, and I said something. She called me back and said, "Repeat what you said." And I did. And she said, "Please, can you put that down on record?" What did I say? I said that this country, I owe this country. I owe Nigeria, because Nigeria gave to me what any country in the world could have given to any citizen as its best. And what was that? From nowhere, I got into Federal Government College Warri, knowing nobody, then rated the best in West Africa and the 9th best in the Commonwealth. And this country gave me the education that, could compare with anyone, anywhere in the world. And on account of that education, the son of a nobody, so to speak, that I was, has become not just a national, but an international reference point in success. And as a result, I owe this country to give back. I owe the people of this country. Let me tell you, by the grace of God, at 21, I had my first degree. 23, I had my master's. 25, I got married. 30, I had my 3 children. 37, I became the first Nigerian to get a Shelter Africa facility for any state government, and I built the Shelter Africa estate in Uyo. At 45, 2 of my sons, I have 3 children, 2 boys and a girl. At 45, my 2 sons had graduated from the university, from Covenant University. At 50, my 3rd child, the lady, graduated from the same university, while my first son had his master's from University of Manchester. Now, if this is not the goodness of God, that at 50, all your children have graduated, they are stabilized, and they are doing well, why can't you just use the rest of your time to give back to the system? I've been doing that, giving hundreds of scholarships, giving lots of entrepreneurial support as an individual. But I realized that getting into government, all these monies that these people steal in quantums that just blow the mind, I could channel those resources, manage them well, affect the people at a much larger scale than I would, and then show people how governance ought to be and what the essence of government is. So rather than retire, and if I stop at this could be misunderstood, but when you see it within the context of the grace of God, if I retire today, I could never beg till I die, no matter how long I live. God has helped me. But can I say that to all my workers that have been working for me, all the young people that have been my drivers, my cooks, my architects, why can't I come in and help them have the sort of close as much as possible to the sort of Nigeria that I had? I feel bad about all the people at my age category because they went to public schools, they paid next to nothing, they got a good quality of education, and today they are the same people that are wrecking the public institutions. They are the same people that are wrecking the future of the young people. We are the same people that have turned Nigeria to become the poverty capital of the world. There ought to be people from my generation that should come out and say, enough is enough. Let me give back. And I think that this is the very least I could do.
You know, you are sounding so fresh to me. Why? Because, you know, it's not often you hear people talk about giving back to Nigeria. There are people who have really benefited from Nigeria who haven't given back to Nigeria, but instead have depleted Nigeria, destroyed Nigeria. And so this generation of Nigerians have nothing to show, nothing to say they are proud about, you know, the country. And so when people like you who have benefited from the country, when the systems were working, so to speak, when you could turn on the tap and have water, when there was light, electricity, and before light went off, you were given notification that, okay, between this hour and this hour, there's going to be maintenance. When the public schools were good. So it's so refreshing to have someone from that generation say, I want to restore things back to the way it used to be. I want to say thank you to my country for building me. However, one of the problems that we have with governors in most of our states is the fact that they are not, as I've said on this program, they are not creative enough to make the states viable, which is why I have so many people trooping to Lagos and the FCT. How do you plan to make Akwa Ibom viable? You have a population of about 5.5 million people. How do you intend to make that place viable and not have it be known as the civil service state as it is known today?
I'll tell you 1, 2, 3 things about Akwa Ibom State. Number one, Akwa Ibom State is one of the most blessed states in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Number two, Akwa Ibom people are about the most trusting people. They're prayerful, spiritual, and everything. Number three, Akwa Ibom youths in particular are about the most gifted in the Federal Republic of Nigeria in the areas of, you know, music and dance, talking about the arts generally, entertainment, and of course, particularly in the area of ICT. After Lagos and Abuja, the next ICT hub in Nigeria is where? Uyo. Now, with all these things put together, all you need is somebody. You see, let me show you something. When we had the debate, this is the dress I wore. I deliberately wore the dress again today. Have you seen something? My name is there, and then you have my account detail. I want to say this on my integrity, that nobody in the whole world can say that he or she has contributed 6 million to my campaign. Nobody. You know why? Because he who pays the piper dictates the tune. And the greatest problem that we have in Akwa Ibom is that the governorship candidates are largely sponsored by external forces who see so much resources in Akwa Ibom State, and as a result, they want to get that state by all means for one purpose, state capture. So you have a state that has so much resources, and yet when you come to Akwa Ibom, you cannot see 70% of the resources of Akwa Ibom in Akwa Ibom. And that is on account of one thing, capital flight. And if I believe in integrity, I'm not going to take your money and then turn my back on you. I'm going to go with the people of Akwa Ibom State. We actually should be having election next tomorrow, which means we had almost come to the end of the journey successfully, strictly on account of the contributions of
the governorship election has been postponed, you know.
Yeah, I said we should have been having.
Oh, okay.
I know, yeah, we should have been having, which means that we had effectively come about to the end very successfully and done what we needed to do without depending on external hands to fund our campaign. 99% of our campaign is funded between myself and my people in Akwa Ibom State. On account of that, we can now have what we call Akwa Ibom for Akwa Ibom ideology. By the time you bring in 70% of the resources of Akwa Ibom State and put it in Akwa Ibom State, you will completely transform this area. Let me give you a very little illustration, very small, that will blow your mind. Do you know that we have 2,226 villages in Akwa Ibom State, villages where you have a village head, 2,226 of them. Now, if I put 500,000 naira in every village every month for their development and transformation, every village, 500,000 every month, people say, where do you get such money from? Do you know that just listen to this. The total amount, I've done the math, comes to about 1.1 billion. 1.1 billion per month is about half what a governor gets as security vote in Akwa Ibom State. What that means is that without even having to go for any appropriation or this or that, you have that money resident within you. Now, the biggest way for you to grow the economy, for you to activate the system, is for you to focus on rural economy. But what we've done is ego tripping. I built this mansion, I built that flyover, I built this. It's not about I. If you look at the Constitution, Chapter 2, Section 14, subsection 2B says, the security and welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government. Security and welfare of the people shall. I know in legal parlance, though I'm an architect, not a lawyer, but in legal parlance, I'm made to understand that shall is more compelling than must. So if they say this shall be the primary purpose of government, it means that at the end of your tenure, they should not rate you by how many flyovers or roads you built, but the poverty index. What was it when you came in? What is it when you have exited? How have you made the life of the people better? That is the essence and the primary purpose of government. So for me, the moment I deploy the resources of the people of Akwa Ibom State to the basics, to the fundamentals, to the stimulation of the rural economy, and then you now have the Akwa Ibom Development Youth Bill, which is already passed into law. Okay, it just means signing, and then you're able to give support. We have the money. We do have the money. You're able to give the necessary support to the startups of the ICT and make it such that right from the primary school, you must learn a computer language from the primary school. Once you have that ideology set in place, then you now reposition the state in a way that in the next 20 years, their children are going to be the global players, because the way of the future is ICT exclusively.
Okay, well, you do sound beautiful. There's no doubt about that. You're almost convincing me. But I wonder, how have you been able to convince the people of Akwa Ibom State in the course of your campaign? Because ADC is not particularly one of the popular parties. And of course, your mantra has been vote competency, not party and zone. Have you been able to convince them not to vote party?
You see, people would have been shocked by the result of the elections by tomorrow. Akwa Ibom people are extremely intelligent, more than you know, and oftentimes they are taken for granted. And I have been here in Akwa Ibom for over 30 years. They know me very well. And each time they say, wait for the ballot, and there would have been a surprise. And you see, what happens is, when you talk in terms of moving the campaign by 1 week, I've listened to some of the analysis people have made. You see, there are two ways you run a campaign. One way is same old, same old. You do what they do, and you don't stand a chance, because where do I stand to compete with PDP that makes so much money as government in power, or other people that have been in power for God knows how long and they've starched up so much money? Yet, in Akwa Ibom, there's what they call the Big Five, okay? And ADC in Akwa Ibom is different from ADC in other places. ADC is one of the top 5 in Akwa Ibom State. Just like Peter Obi getting to any party made the news, anywhere that architect Nyaitok enters is already something. Like in the debates. I mean, there's no debate. If they are to have 4 people, I'll be one of the 4. If they have 3 people, I'll be one of the 3. Okay, I can say that much, because APC, PDP, they will always be there. But there's a strong party that came up from PDP, and that's YPP. So that is another strong party. And then Nyaitok is there. So if you look at the top 4, these are the parties you'll find in Akwa Ibom State. Now, there's something a revolution that came that worked so much in my favor, and that is the hashtag person, not party. Now, when you look at the parties, yes, they are there, but people are starting to look at the persons. When you bring out the people behind the parties, you cannot but say that, in all modesty, Nyaitok is there at the very, very top. in terms of the people, in terms of pedigree, in terms of what you've achieved, what you have established in the state, your footprint in the state over the past 20 years. I will say, in all modesty, that call anybody from Akwa Ibom, they'll tell you two things about me. Number one is that out of 10 people, at least 8 will say, "Oh, that man has integrity. That man is somebody that is respected."
All right. Okay. So because time is not so much on our side, I want to ask you this question before we go. It's not even about what you feel about the postponement, but local government autonomy is very crucial. If the states are going to develop, are you going to push for that, the autonomy for local government councils?
Obviously, definitely. And people will even tell you yes before on my behalf, because I am very heavy on, the federating units within the state, which is the local government. And I even have what they call the 4th tier of government, which is like ward governance. Now, what I tell people is that if I go to live in Uyo, in Lagos and Abuja, you can come as a local government chairman and live in Uyo. But if I live in Uyo, you've got to go and live in your local government. And I am one person that committed myself to say that out of the 52 weeks of the year and the 31 local governments that we have, I will spend a weekend, Friday to Monday, at least once a year in every local government. So I believe in local government autonomy, allow them to use their money. It's not always bringing money to develop only yo, so that people will now see how you have built flyovers, built this, built that. No. I want to be rated as that man that changed the lives of the people of the state by allowing local government to have their resources and putting money in every village, not even ward, not even local government.
All right.
Every village, every month for 4 years.
Architect Ezekiel Nya-Etok, the ADC governorship candidate for Akwa Ibom State. Well, thank you so much for your time, and we do wish you the very best as you go to the polls on the 18th of March to contest the governorship.
Thanks so much. And I noticed that you were looking at the account details and they're going to transfer yours. I'll be looking forward to it.
Oh, well, let's see what happens. Well, thank you so much for your time. You're watching the roundup. Well, that's what you've been watching. At this point, we have to draw the curtains on the program today. Many thanks for being a part of the show.
Change is inevitable.
That we don't get it wrong at this point in time.
We cannot continue the lamentation of the past.
You're a leader. Don't go away when Basa is under the water. Don't leave Jigawa to die. Don't say, oh, I cannot go to Southern Kaduna because there's a problem.
Join us on Ballot 2023 all day on Election Day on Plus TV Africa for nationwide coverage with seasoned reportage and analysis. Ballot 2023, Nigeria's moment of decision. All day on Election Day on Plus TV Africa.
World Day Against Child Labor, held annually on June 12, is an international day to raise awareness and prompt action to stop child labor in all its forms. The International Labour Organization launched the first World Day Against Child Labor in 2002 as a way to highlight the plight of these children. The day is intended to serve as a catalyst for the growing worldwide movement against child labor and provide an opportunity to gain support from governments, civil society, schools, youth and women's groups, as well as the media in the campaign against child labor. Child labor is the employment of children in any work that deprives children of their childhood, interferes with their ability to attend regular school, and that is mentally, physically, socially, or morally dangerous and harmful. Therefore, the day seeks to alert the public to the fact that many children are forced to work every day when they should be in school to learn and to build a better future for themselves and their families. The World Day Against Child Labor aims to promote the rights of all children to be protected from child exploitation and other violations of their fundamental human rights, as well as combat all types of child labor. Child labor is rampant in many developing countries. Even in industrialized nations, many children are forced to work. According to figures available on the United Nations website, approximately 152 million children have been pushed into child labor. Out of the 152 million, around 72 million are involved in hazardous work. The data also reveals that around 48% victims of child labor are aged between 5 to 11 years old, 28% are aged between 12 to 14 years old, and the remaining 24% fall in the 15 to 17 years bracket. This year's World Day Against Child Labor focuses on action taken for the 2021 International Year for the Elimination of Child Labor, and will also focus on efforts to drive progress during the International Year, with a week of action raising the voices of International Labour Organization constituents and the many partners engaged in the struggle against child labor in all regions of the world.
Increase the reach of your events or business services. To advertise on Plus TV Africa, please call 0906 000 5719 or 0909 040 8408, or send an email to marketing@PlusTvAfrica.com. Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
Hello, good afternoon. I am Kimberly Obiabo. This is the news update. A train on Thursday morning collided with a passenger bus in the Shogunle area of Oshodi in Lagos State. The train reportedly dragged the bus from Shogunle to PWD area of Ikeja. Investigation gathered revealed that the immediate cause of the incident was due to reckless driving on the part of the BRT bus driver while trying to beat the train traffic signal before the moving train rammed into the BRT bus. Dr. Olufemi Femi Osanyitolu, Director General of the Lagos State Emergency Management Agency, LASEMA, confirmed that 2 adults were dead and several people seriously injured. The injured victims have, however, been administered first aid treatment by the agency's medical team, and they are stabilized and are being transported to the trauma center at Lasut, Ikeja, for further treatment. Elsewhere, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has postponed the governorship and state assembly elections initially slated to hold on March 11 to March 18. The Court of Appeal Abuja had earlier granted the commission the go-ahead to reconfigure its bimodal voter accreditation system, BVAS, for the exercise. The INEC National Commissioner and Chairman Information and Voter Education Committee, Festus Okoye, confirmed the postponement of the election in a statement issued late on Wednesday night in Abuja. The Presidential Election Petition Court, PEPC, sitting at the Court of Appeal in Abuja, has given the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, the nod to reconfigure the bimodal voter accreditation system, BVAS, it used for the presidential election. The court, in a unanimous decision by a 3-member panel of justice, held that stopping the electoral body from reconfiguring the BVAS would adversely affect Saturday's governorship and state assemblies elections. It dismissed objections that the Labour Party and its presidential candidate, Mr. Peter Obi, raised against INEC's move to reconfigure all the BVAS. According to the court, allowing the objections by Obi and his party would amount to tying the hands of the respondent, INEC.
Our ICT experts deposed to the affidavit that no, reconfiguring the BVAS machine will not tamper with the data contain this, because we are sending the data to our back-end clouds and server. And there was no counter affidavit or further affidavit to controvert what we say. The court has no option than to accept what we are saying at the position of the law and the true position.
The good news is that the initial order of the court made on the 3rd of March, permitting Peter Gregory Obi and Labour Party to inspect the facilities of INEC, including the BVAS machine, which they intend to use to prove their petition. Those orders are sustained. The application seeking to vary it was refused.
Also, the Presidential Election Petition Court, PEPC, sitting at the Court of Appeal, has ordered the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to grant the President-elect Bola Tinubu access to sensitive materials it used for the presidential election. The court, in a unanimous judgment by a 3-member panel led by Justice Joseph Igai, said it was satisfied there was merit in Tinubu's request to have access to electoral materials to enable him to defend his election victory. Meanwhile, presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Atiku Abubakar, has inaugurated a legal team to challenge the outcome of the February 25th presidential election. The former vice president mandated them to establish the claim of illegality in the February 25th presidential election and reclaim the mandate of the Nigerian people. The team, which is headed by J.K. Gatsama, comprises 19 senior advocates of Nigeria. The Committee of Indigenous Negotiations has endorsed the governorship candidate of the Labour Party in the state, Badebo Road River, ahead of the March 18 elections. The committee made this official declaration at a press conference in Lagos on Wednesday. The group condemned alleged thuggery in the February 25th presidential and National Assembly elections led by Afenifere leader Shupo Shonibare. The group warned residents of Lagos State against social media posts inciting violence, noting that the narrative that Lagos has been taken over by the Igbos is false. Goods worth millions of naira were on Wednesday burnt down by unidentified arsonists who invaded Akere motor parts and allied dealers markets in the Olode-Apapa area of Lagos State. The incident, which claimed the life of a security guard for the taxi park beside the market, Baba Hakim, and left several others injured, was said to have been perpetrated by masked men. Meanwhile, a statement by the senior special assistant to the president on media and publicity, Garba Shehu, said President Buhari was sad over the death of Baba Kazim and expressed concern that a similar fire incident occurred at the popular Balogun market a few weeks ago. Buhari called on relevant authorities to take precautions to stem the tide. To other parts of Africa, the bodies of 47 victims of Ivory Coast 2010-2011 post-election violence were handed over to their families on Wednesday as part of the national reconciliation process initiated by President Alassane Ouattara. The bodies were returned to their relatives, who also received €2,000 in compensation from the government. Ouattara's victory in the presidential election was contested by the outgoing Laurent Gbagbo, leading to several months of violence that left 3,000 dead on both sides. Outside Africa, police have fired tear gas and sprayed water cannon to disperse protesting Sri Lankan university students in Colombo. On the second day of demonstrations, the protesters were demonstrating against the police having entered university premises without permission. Student union leader Hiruna Hetarachi said police had attacked students in the University of Colombo library who had not been protesting. In business news, the Central Bank of Nigeria has issued operational guidelines for open banking in Nigeria to ensure stability in the nation's financial system. The Apex Bank, in a circular signed by the Director of Payment Services Management Department, Musa Jimo, said the guidelines would create greater access to customer-focused data sharing between banks and the third-party firms. It further stated that all stakeholders were mandated to ensure strict compliance with the guidelines and other regulations. In entertainment news, Ghanaian actress Zandi Kamil has stated that trolls from social media have had a negative impact on her life and relationships. The actress, who recently divorced her husband, said negative comments her critics dropped under her posts on social media have driven all the men in her life away. She lamented that most of her prospective lovers immediately lose interest in her after they come across the brutal insults her critics bring on her on social media. In sports news, the Confederation of African Football Cup Group B Match Day 4 encounter between Rivers United of Nigeria and DC Motema Pembe of Democratic Republic of Congo will be played today. The game will be played at the Godswill Akpabio International Stadium, Uyo, Akwa Ibom. Rivers United are currently second in Group B with 6 points from 3 matches and a point behind ASC Minoses of Cote d'Ivoire, while Motema Pembe are bottom of the standings on 2 points. The club had earlier defeated DC Motema Pembe 1-0 on match day 3 of the championship. And that's news update. For more stories, please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel at PlusTvAfrica and PlusTvAfrica Lifestyle. You can also view us from Limex on Limex.tv and Glow TV apps anywhere in the world. I am Kimberly Obiabo. Many thanks for watching. Have a good afternoon.
An African girl somewhere is sitting at home, accompanied by dreams that seem so far away. Africa is one of the continents with the highest out-of-school percentage in education, and girls are at an early disadvantage. The sub-Saharan Africa records about 18 million out-of-school girls. This gender gap extends to the tech space with a projection of only a 33% global female workforce representation in tech firms for 2022. Let us help change the stories and numbers. Africa Agility's Project Train a Girl campaign is working to help train African girls in tech. You can donate as little as $2 or 2,000 naira to help a girl in tech get her heels in knocking the door. Visit www.africaagility.rallyup.com/PTAG to donate.
Increase the reach of your events or business services. To advertise on Plus TV Africa, please call 0906 000 5719 or 0909 040 8408, or send an email to marketing@PlusTvAfrica.com. Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
The Nigerian film industry has continued to gain popularity across the continent and on the global stage. Even with its popularity and growth, it is still to be criticized on many fronts, one of which is that it is a quantity-driven industry as opposed to a quality one. Stakeholders have given certain factors for churning out substandard movies. Some have said budget restrictions, weak plots, repetitive dialogue, and the overwhelming lack of public-private partnership, not leaving out government participation. Since 2010, some positive developments have changed the nature of Nollywood. They include an influx of professional filmmakers, the rise in international festival and cinema tours, international premieres, collaborations with multinational companies, Pan-Africanism and distribution via multiplexes. In this time, a film's release on VCD, DVD began to happen later in its life, effectively disenfranchising Nollywood's traditional mass-market consumer base. The question I am interested in answering are Nollywood's filmmakers becoming more specialized in their art? And was it gentrifying? I use the word metaphorically to explore whether Nollywood increased in grandeur, appeal and acceptance amongst Nigeria's upper class. Hence, leading to fast rise in features of skit makers, brand influencers, and basically anyone with a little bit of fame. And has this become the domino effect, catapulting skit makers and brand influencers into a whole lot of fame?
Put your account number here.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes, my dear.
Thank you,
yes,
sir.
Let me send something to you.
Hello and welcome. On this episode on One-on-One today, I'm speaking with a professional with over 18 years experience. His name is Aziz Abida. Now, those who have worked with him say he possesses strong leadership.
To the government to give us structure. And the government don't have problem. It is we movie makers. They tend to do riots in the state, carrying placard. It is the National Assembly that should give me a structure. Are they trying to make me powerless? Is it a dictatorship style of ruling? They don't know what to do. The question I ask myself at times is, that honorable that is in charge of culture and code that can give me structure, does he know anything about movies? He's just looking for where to be. He doesn't even know. It is one, we have a lot of us that can bring the revolution. About 5 or 6 of us in the assemblies, we can scream, we tell them, God damn you, you know what I'm suffering, you know what I'm going through now, so speak my language. But if you tend to put one honorable man there who was elected, who was and probably mechanical engineer or an economist or something, who doesn't even know my pain, we can't get it right. It is the structure. After the structure, yeah, the investors can now smile, because if you invest in me, put money on my table, I mean, there, you want me to put food on my table, put in billions and I'll give you back millions or thousands. Will you come back some other time? No. When the government gets it right, the investors, please, if they are coming, I always tell them, please invest in me, in what I can pay back. I am the president of the Golden Movie Ambassadors of Nigeria. We believe in restructuring, repositioning, and getting everything right. An ambassador means you can represent your country everywhere. That is where professionalism comes in. A lot of people are just coming in from everywhere. We have more than 50 associations, 31 performing. What we're looking for, why can't we be one? A professionalism can come in when you have a strong structure that can guide it.
New talents are essential for growth and encourage new faces into the industry, but proper training is vital for theatre and, of course, film.
Training is critical, but we need to create a platform that gives everybody the opportunity to be trained. And then also we need to look at also some means of internship on productions, take people on and guide them, and show them how to do what you do. If we look at theater itself, it's a massive training ground for talents that will end up even on screen. I think training is important, but then a lot of people learn on the job, which is good. But I think where we would get it right is if production houses, also attempt to train, give basic training to people that are not necessarily trained, that are venturing into the industry. You have actors, there are people that are good, they are not trained actors, but on their own, like you said, skit makers, they didn't go to anywhere, but their skits are so evolved that they have so many people looking forward to see what next they are going to do, and then you see they can hone their skills and use them, but then again, it is a factor of the industry having that capacity to train, having the infrastructure to train. A lot of these people would want to, if the opportunity is there, gain more knowledge on how to do film, how to be better actors or producers or things like that, but then we need to have that platform that gives them the opportunity. That's one. And two, production companies also should look at ways of, even at times, some training do not necessarily have to be formal. They could be informal through internships and things like that. And then skit makers also, at times when they've made so much fame, they are popular, they feel they have arrived. But no, there are certain basics you still need to learn. At times you should learn also to try and hone your skills so you can be better. That you are popular now does not mean you cannot do better things, milking that popularity that you have gained now through the skits you do, which we notice a lot of people don't do. A lot of directors will just allow you to do your thing. I've heard of a set where the director just say, okay, read the line, or yeah, do your thing, but at times you should be able to tell somebody, this is what I want you to do, this is the way I want it to be. That helps with the quality. The next thing I'll look at is casting. People cast for the wrong reason. It is good to cast with the mind that this person is going to draw eyeballs or is popular. Hopefully, the person will help with publicity. It is good. But when you look at certain characters and you know that you need somebody to deliver top-notch performance, and then that character is unique in that way. It's not something you can just cast anybody because of the numbers. And you overlook that fact and you just put someone that cannot deliver on the character because you think the person has got numbers, then that drags the quality of the production.
It is not acceptable for popular faces to just go on and start filming without necessary kinds of training. For us in Actors Guild of Nigeria, it's something we totally abhor and we condemn. So you find out that sometimes before you catch them, they are finished making the film. So we are gradually working with the censors board in Nigeria to see that some of these things are put to a stop. You must have a certain level of qualification. Even if you have graduated from school and you have not done this business before, you still need some kind of elementary approach where you will be given some ideas, instructions on what to do before joining the Nollywood industry. It's not all about I can act, I cannot act. Sometimes you see these popular people, when they come to set to act, they don't know terminologies of the industry. When you tell somebody who is acting and you say the director says cut, he doesn't know or she doesn't know what cut means, you understand? All of these things are the rudiments of the industry that they needed to go through. But because we are in a country where everything goes, people don't seem to follow rules and regulations, but we are gradually closing in on them.
With the advent of internet, social media, and instant entertainment platforms, many reality TV stars and skit makers have risen to fame. In this part of the world, becoming a top celebrity is either by hard work, persistence, or through reality shows. As we know that the road to fame is a tough one around here, a few of our top Nigerian celebrities credit their prominence to reality shows which have given them the opportunity. One of them is Seyi Awolowo, who didn't see it as a challenge for the Nollywood to cast popular faces in movies, as long as the directors have a sense of direction and vision they hope to achieve in the movie.
Well, I don't see why not. Everybody is entitled to be able to do what it is that they want to do. Only thing is when it becomes constant and if there's a regulatory body involved, if it's a constant thing where they've literally become constant film and they need to be registered, okay, then they can go and do that. But I believe that everybody should have, I don't see any reason why I will not put who I want to put in my own production when I want to put them in my production. I mean, I see that person to fit the role accordingly, to fit the character, Bible properly. So why not I'll bring the person on board? So I don't see anything wrong with it, as such. It just depends on who's creating movie and whose movie it is. Sometimes you want a particular kind of thing, but you're not willing to give. Give what you take or take what you give, how to speak. If you're going to be professional to the T. Follow your this thing and not along the line. I want to start using or there's a sentiment of, now help us to make it known. If you start a particular kind of way, go all the way down to the end. Professionalism in the industry, I can't say varies from companies to companies or from different organizations to organizations, how professional they are, or their motto, or their modus operandum of how they want to handle things. So, that's the thing. For me now, I can just have a laid back working environment where I want everybody wearing shorts and t-shirt and being more laid back as to probably just someone that wants everybody in a tie. And so it just depends on, the modus operandi of that particular organization that is handling the production of whatever movie or, that is handling that particular production for the time being while you are working, if you get what I'm saying.
There are regulatory bodies, but do they really carry out their duties? How do they manage professionalism in the Nollywood industry?
For us, we have a constitution that we're working with, but we're trying to come up with the memorandum of understanding in the industry, whereby even if you are involved in any show or something where you have been elected as maybe highest winner and all of that, you would need to still pass through one or two trainings and then belong to a group, either as a producer or as an actor, before you are practicing in the industry. Yeah, professionalism, without being political here, every industry needs professionalism. For us in Nollywood, we are grappling with that because the Nollywood industry is the industry that started without entry point and without exit point. And it continued to grow without anybody checking it. Now it has grown beyond bounds that wherever you are coming with discipline, it becomes like it's too difficult to instill discipline among practitioners because there were no laid down rules from beginning. There were no laid down rules from beginning. There were a lot of illiterates. There were a lot of people who didn't go to school. There were a lot of people who didn't see the four walls of any school, but because they are talented, they have made it big and they are now in the industry. So it's a Herculean task at this point. So we're calling on people who have been here before in the industry to so come back and say, look, this is getting out of hand. We have to come back to the basis. Let's see where we structure. Every actor, every producer, every director, you must belong to where your people are. Let us begin to see places. We need professionalism so I don't just do things out of proportion.
The Nollywood industry is a growing work in progress, and the Nigerian Film Censors Board needs to enforce the parameters that positively influence the creative processes from writing a screen to post-production. Is this body efficiently empowered to ensure professionalism in Nollywood? Well, hope we find answers soon.
Reason for domestic violence.
Nigeria has produced and continues to produce great writers who have won great accolades and recognition for their work. When discussing African literature, names like Chinua Achebe, Wole Soyinka, and Buchi Emecheta But beyond these writers, exist modern writers redefining the fate of literature in Nigeria, Africa, and globally. 1. Chimamanda Adichie, the recipient of a MacArthur Foundation Fellowship, was born on the 15th of September 1977 in Enugu, Nigeria. As a teenager, Chimamanda left for the United States and gained a scholarship to study communication at the Drexel University in Philadelphia, then pursued a degree in communication and political science at Eastern Connecticut State University. Her works have been translated into over 30 languages and has appeared in various publications, including The New Yorker, the O. Henry Price Stories, and the Financial Times. Some of her books, like The Purple Hibiscus, Half of a Yellowstone, and Americana, have won various awards. Her 2012 talk, We Should All Be Feminists, started a worldwide conversation about feminism and was published as a book in 2014. Tomi Adeyemi. Tomi, the author of Children of Blood and Bone, was born on August 1st, 1993, in the United States to parents who emigrated from Nigeria. After graduating Harvard University with an honors degree in English literature, she received a fellowship to study West African mythology, religion, and culture in Salvador, Brazil. Her debut novel, Children of Blood and Bone, has spent over 2 years on the New York Times bestseller list, and its film adaptation is currently in active development with Disney's Fox and Lucasfilms. She was named one of Time magazine's 100 Nigerian American writer and storyteller based in Los Angeles, California. In 2020, she was named one of Forbes 30 Under 30 in media, and her website has been named one of the best websites for writers by Writers Digest. Teju Cole. Teju Cole is a novelist, photographer, and curator. He was born in 1975 in the U.S. He is currently the Gore Vidal Professor of the Practice of Creative Writing at Harvard University. His novella, Every Day is for the Thief, was named a Book of the Year by the New York Times, The Globe and Mail, NPR, and The Telegraph, and shortlisted for the PEN Open Book Award. Another one of his books, Open City, also featured on numerous Book of the Year lists and won the PEN Hemingway Award, the New York City Book Award for Fiction, and was shortlisted for the National Book Critics